We are live.
Good evening, everyone, and very good welcome to Jorge Alio, who is an international master on refractive and cataract surgery. And we welcome you in this IGO initiative academic webinar, and it will be on Phakic Biotech IOL in different special situation. And we love to hear you. I have heard several lectures of you in different international congress, and it is lovely to hear you. With that, Santosh, you just welcome our special guest, George.
Good evening. I first want to congratulate Vanati, the editor of Indian Journal of Ophthalmology, for taking this initiative to have a very special topical lecture by the master himself, Jorge Alio. Welcome, George. Thank you for sparing your time to talk on this very important, interesting topic, I would say, although I don't do cataract refractive, but still the topic is very relevant to our ophthalmologists. And I wish all the best, and Vanati can go ahead and introduce George.
Okay.
So,
Well, thank you very much.
yes, I think Dr. Jorge Alio needs no special introduction. He is a very, very well-known international figure in the field of cataract and refractive surgery all across the globe, not only just in Europe, but across all the continents in the world here. He's the professor and chairman of ophthalmology at the University of Miguel Hernandez of Spain, and his specialization is cornea and ocular surface, cataract and refractive surgery, and he is also the scientific director of VISM in Alicante, Spain here. And I think if I start reading out all his decorations, then we would not have enough time to listen to his talk here. But of all the recent credentials which he's received, I think the wonderful Binkhorst Medal lecture which he gave at ESCRS Vienna 2023 is something which is to be remembered here. He's won several medals over the last few years as well. And something which is very creditable is he's a silver reviewer for the Journal of Refractive Surgery, and that's a very difficult journal to publish in. And I know that his standards are pretty high. And I do hope that he would be giving us his services and would also contribute more to the Indian Journal of Ophthalmology here. He's on the editorial board of several journals, including the BMC Ophthalmology and Therapy, Open Ophthalmology. He's been on the board of the European Ophthalmic Review and several others to his credit. And I think we will now invite him to speak to us on his experiences about phakic IOLs and especially about the Eyecryl IOL in special situations. So Dr. Alios has a wonderful experience in this field, and I think he's going to indulge us in his rich experience and teach us more on all the latest aspects of the phakic IOL surgery. Before I hand over the podium to Dr. Alio, I would also like to introduce to you our expert discussion panel, which is being led by Professor Radhika Tandon, who is the head of cataract refractive surgery at All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi. We also have with us Dr. Bhaskar Srinivasan, who was with Shankar Netralia and has now left on his own venture at Code very recently. He also has a prolific experience in both cataract and refractive and corneal surgeries as well. I welcome Sri Ganesh, who's just joined us here. And Sri Ganesh has been a pioneer in publishing some extensive results on both cataract and phakic IOL innovations, plus lenticule keratoplasty from the country for over a decade now. So I think we could also learn more from his rich experience and the interactions following Dr. Alio's talk. And we also have with us Dr. Ayan Mohanta, who's the head of the Cornea and Refractive Services of Disha High Hospital, Kolkata. So this panel spans people from across the globe and across India. And we look forward to the learning from the rich experience and all the latest aspects about phakic IOL surgery and how Eyecryl is now helping us to serve our patients better in special situations. Over to you, Dr. Jayaswali.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, I'm very honored by this introduction. And indeed, it is for me a pleasure to cooperate with the Indian Journal of Ophthalmology. It's an important journal that I really think that will be even more in the future, because the number and the quality of the ophthalmic surgeons in India is fantastic. And I think that the future is brilliant for Indian ophthalmology, and especially you have a journal that you can use for to disseminate science and to action in our patients. So now let me start with what is the topic of this presentation, which is the use of this particular technology that, by the way, is an Indian technology. Indian technology is emerging now as a very important one, and this is the one that I use at this moment, the Biotech Phakic intraocular lens technology. And I'm going to tell you about especially difficult cases in which I find this technology is especially useful for reasons that I will show to you immediately. First of all, this is the lens. The lens is a Phakic lens, it's a posterior chamber lens, inspired obviously in the previous models that have been successful in the market, particularly the ICL. It's different to the ICL, but the model is clear. This is the plate haptic platform that makes posterior chamber lenses to be successful today. It looks like an ICL, but it's not, as I told you. It has, and remember, not in the right. And this is the main difference when implanting this lens. You have to pay attention to your left in the distal haptic in order to be sure that you are implanting the right place the lens. The lens otherwise has a very particular feature, is that most of the pores is in the anterior face, not in the posterior, something that is clearly different to others that are at this moment available in the market, which makes a different in terms of creating peripheral vault to be safe, because otherwise the posterior side of the lens becomes a trump and inadequate for a high powers, because you can induce the development of a circular cataract. And so why I am preferring this lens in therapeutic refractive surgery? I'm going to talk to you not on regular cases. I use it in regular cases, like for sure you are doing. It's a very good lens, but what makes this lens different for me is that it can be used in therapeutic refractive surgery in the special cases I will show to you now. Design, it is because the effective pupil coverage with this particular lens, it is because the toricity that can be customized, as you would see even in high cylinders, it is because it is easier to implant, much more novel in reactions, and I have much less problem in using this lens than the others from the competence, particularly the ICL. And finally, because the prediction of vault, which is the headache that we have with the ICL, whatever we do, you will have unprecise vaulting, is not happening that much, because reasons that I will show to you now as well. So why I like this lens in particular cases? Let me tell you that for me, special cases in which I have that experience is a high anisometropias in stable keratoconus, in high astigmatism following corneal graft, particularly in keratoconus, because whatever you do in keratoconus with a corneal graft, you can do a perfect surgery, perfect suturing, and then you remove the suture and you end in high astigmatism, because it's not about your technique that you have. It's not about the suture, it's about the recipient. You're dealing with a recipient cornea that is obviously the terminal stage of keratoconus, and so whatever you do with the new graft will be unstable and unpredictable. High astigmatism follows corneal graft in keratoconus very frequently. Then we have high anisometropia in children, and this is one of the applications because the durability of this material. And then I use it as well as a piggyback lens. Piggyback lens in cases in which we have especially high cylindrical residual refractive error, because the flexibility of this lens to be manufactured in different powers, positive and negative. These are the cases in which I'm using this lens now, other than normal cases in which obviously I'm using it as well. Let me go through more details. First of all, this is a lens that is hydrophilic, but has a higher index of refraction. The index of refraction is 1.462 instead of the 1.442, and that makes the lens to have a better performance with thinner lenses. The reason is the material. The material is the Benflex 26. Benflex 26 is a material that has been used for many, many years in cataract surgery. It's a very novel material, has 26% of water, and 74% of hydroxy methacrylate and methyl methacrylate. It's important because this is the main difference with the collamer, which is, as you know, an organic material, and because the organic material characteristics, and because it is coming from the porcine collagen, has particular problems with the flexibility, the most flexible, and second is doesn't have the durability in time that we are requesting out of this list. Let me go to this topic right immediately. Durability is important because we are implanting now very young patients. We are doing even anisometropic myopic patients in pediatric refractive surgery, and the problem is that the durability, what is guaranteed by the Biotech lens, and is not guaranteed by the ICL because there is no way to control the aging of the collagen. Aging of the collagen will happen because it's a biological product, and I want my patients when implanting a 9 or 10 years patient, very young, even younger sometimes, to be sure that in 40 years we shall not have a problem with the material that will make the lens to be implantable. This is important. The zero technology has no impurity, and is a very good lens in terms of the quality and durability of the material. Then we have the important issue, because we have models of different size. Sizing is an issue in keratoconus surgery because the sulcus to sulcus distance is not the standard one. This was suspected from years ago, but now it's obvious that we have in the advanced keratoconus a problem that relates affected as well, and we don't follow the white to white measurements that we don't have now precise estimation as we have in the standard cases. So sometimes we need larger lenses, and this lens can be manufactured in different models, even in size. This lens is surgeon friendly because it is used like a normal lens. It is not to be implanted with a loading into the cartridge in a convex way, but it's a new implant, which is much more simple. It doesn't need to be taken out to the tip of the injector because it is not necessary. The lens is rigid enough not to rotate inside the cartridge when it's injected with a plunger, and is released in the third chamber. Is smooth and is not rotating. You are not able, really, even that you can do a mistake, but it's very difficult to implant upside down, something that happens to the ICL. The plus 10 to minus 25 exceptional range. Very few times you will need a plus 10, but we have many cases that needs 25, even larger lens in terms of power, and the lens can be manufactured even in powers that could be higher. But 25, this is something that you can get in this lens on the standard basis. And about toricity, you can go up to 5 diopters, but on customized orders, you can go to any cylinder. Actually, the one that I have implanted with a larger cylinder has been 17 diopters cylinder successfully as well. The incision size is 2.8 and has a very precise online calculator and ball prediction, which is another issue that is positive for that. The effective pupil coverage comes because of the index of refraction. We have, for the same type of power and for the same time of optics, larger effective optical zone with the accurate. This is important because we are operating young people, young patients with keratoconus. They have large pupils, and obviously these large pupils are prone to have not a good time at night, especially if they have a small optical zone when dealing with high powers. The higher the power with SCL, the smaller the optical zone. This is happening as well with the Biotech Eyecryl, but in much less way. You can compare here with the optical zone with the Eyecryl. Even when you are at -25, you have an effective optical zone of 6.5, which is excellent, with a pupil coverage in millimeters of 5.86. So excellent, and this is a good opportunity to have less night vision problems with the lens. So this is the lens. The lens in the standard sizes are the ones that you can see here. Remember that you can order in a larger size or smaller depending on the case. And this is one of the issues as well. The lens is implanted in horizontal meridian and has the toric cylinder in a way that you can rotate just to enter the ultrasound to place in any adequate way. The implant is made horizontally, and then you can rotate it slightly just to target the axis in which the cylinder should be placed. And these haptics are special in the Eyecryl model. These haptics have a hinge that you can see here, and this hinge makes the tips of the haptics to be kind of adaptable to the peripheral part of the sulcus. It's important because you know the sulcus is an oval structure, it's not circular, and being oval, you will have one of the haptics in a smaller meridian than another. This is adjusted by the flexibility of these hinges that related to the hinge that have the haptics, and this haptics warranty that even that lens is rotated by you because of the toricity to be supported by the 4 haptics, which makes rotational induction by the postcom to be exceptional. This is important because we have 4 points of contact warranty with the Phakic acryl, while with the ICL you can only have 2 points of contact. And not only that, because the lens is more rigid, it can be managed better and is more frequently, and even in most of the cases, I can tell you, in the sulcus. You know, one of the problems that we have when using the ICL is that only 30%, 30% are really sulcus to sulcus implanted, and the others are either ciliary body to ciliary body, inducing a high vault, or ciliary body sulcus inducing an uneven vault in terms of central and peripheral. It's important this is not happening with the acryl, and we have UVM studies in which we have never seen one acryl out from the sulcus, and either we have been lucky or this is one big no. And as a consequence, we have better stability, rotational stability is better as well, and this is one of the important things when you're dealing with high cylinders. This is the set that you need for the acryl. The cartridge is with the lens. You take the lens, remember that the positional hole is down and left, and then you place in the injector, which goes very well and is very simple to use. Let me show to you one of the cases in which we are marking the axis in which we are going to implant the lens. We're taking the lens from the container, we're placing in the cartridge. As you see, this is a new configuration. This is quite simple. It's identical to what we do in pseudophakic lenses. And then we close with a very smooth maneuver. We don't care that much about the clasp in the lens. The lens is well adapted to the concavity of the cartridge. And then elastic, our favorite is methylcellulose, but you can use regular Hilon, regular hyaluronic acid, 1.6% or 10%. And then we are injecting this visco. The lens usually dilate the pupil on the spot. We don't use it preoperatively. We use feed drain, and then we open 2.8 to 3, and the lens is implanted in the regular way. Usually the distal part is going behind the iris, and then with the adequate instruments we place the trial haptic behind the iris and maneuvers that are straightforward, and the lens is behaving very well, very stable, and very novel. The rotation is not happening. Dropping the lens into the plunger is not happening. Having rotation inside the eye when implanted is not happening. Breaking the haptics is exceptional. And finally, we implanted here this lens obviously it's an edited video, but usually our surgeries last about 5 minutes. It's all what we need. We automatic rational expression is not necessary, and we, if possible, we don't even constrict the pupil to guarantee that the axis is well placed according to the plans that we have in the case. So we have a vault predictor. This is an idea from the Spanish group of users, and this vault predictor is working very well. Actually, we are working now in a new software for vault prediction, and vault prediction is something that makes you to be much more comfortable when you know that what you target you are going to get. You are especially high vaults, which are held, and you in many cases or some cases with ICL to expand the lens to substitute it by other shorter is not happening here because the vault predictor is good, and the vault predictor is coming from the most adequate sizing of the lens. The comparative analysis of the vault has been made by us in this study. are quite better and much more stable, with less spherical, less standard deviation, with the Biotech Eyecryl than with the Star ICL. That ICL has a variability of the valve related to the placement in the sulcus or in the ciliary body, and this is one of the problems that we have with the ICL. The valve peripheral ratio is important as well when you're dealing especially with high focus. For instance, this is a case in which we have 22 diopters with a cylinder 2.5. It's really a very thick lens. Look that we have a valve of about 400 microns, and the posterior side of the lens, it doesn't have the meniscus of the correction, what makes this lens to be far away in the periphery from the capsular band. This is important because crystalline lens circular opacities can be induced by those lenses, the others that I'm not mentioning here, because they have the epic correction in the back of the lens, what makes some valves to be good in the center and not good at all in the periphery. This is not happening with acrylic. You have a central to peripheral valve ratio, which is good and is not affected by the pupil. So, as I told you, we are using in high anisometropias in stable keratoconus, high astigmatism following corneal graft in keratoconus as well, high anisometropia in children, and piggyback with significant subclinical. These are my main therapeutic indications of the acrylic Biotech at this moment in my cases. This is a case in which a special case. It was after deep anterior lamellar graft, was performed in a terminal case of keratoconus, and the patient, after removal of the stitches, it became with a high cylinder. This is indeed a frequent problem. The patient was young, and because of the profession, the patient couldn't have contact lenses, and obviously with these anisometropic conditions with high cylinder in one eye, the patients don't have good binocularity. So the decision was in order to compensate the high astigmatism. This is the case. The patient had conjunctive activities, but with plano -10 had a BCVA of 0.44, which is quite good. We performed the calculations, and the lens to be implanted in this case was -12 + 12 at 30 degrees. And when we ordered this lens, as you see, this cylinder is not made by anybody else than this company, and to manufacture this high cylinder is indeed a huge benefit for these cases that otherwise don't find a good solution in anything. The next day after surgery, the patient was 0.8. So we were really good, and we duplicated the amount of BCVA. The reason is clear. Every 4 to 5 diopters of astigmatism, you obtain a gain of at least 1 line of BCVA. So if you have 10 diopters of astigmatism, you should gain about 2 lines, even 3 lines. In this case, gain 4 lines of BCVA. And after 1 month, the patient had a small cylinder that was not necessary to be corrected because the BCVA was minimally affected by this. So this was a very successful case, typical case of the lamellar graft following keratoconus, ending in high cylinder that invalidates completely your performance because patient cannot use glasses, difficult to add a contact lens, and finally legally blind because without any correction, patient was on the finger counting. But finally we ended in a 0.8 plus vision. Patient was outstandingly happy, and we took. This is the surgery as we did in this lamellar graft. We marked the cylinder. We marked the cylinder in order to be sure that we are implanting in the right area. We are this video is the one that we saw before. I'm going to repeat it just for you to see as well as we are placing the lens. This is in a U-fashion way. In the cartridge, we longer, and then we use a viscoelastic. We inject through an incision of 2.8 in general in terms of the dimension of the incision, which is placed in the horizontal meridian or in the positive meridian in order to induce, if any change in the astigmatism, just in the area in which we have the cylinder. And finally, it's injected. The haptics are placed behind the iris, and you don't need a peripheral iridotomy in this case because the central hole makes the work to avoid pupil block. So this is very important, very effective. And this small hole we have never observed that makes any impact in the visual performance of the patient. Lens is implanted successfully, and the surgery is finished. Then we are using, as I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, in piggyback cases. Piggyback is necessary sometimes because we have either refractive surprise or changes that happen in this. Like this one of his, that's 56 years of age, had a laser ectasia. The calculation of the lens, even with the methods that are today available, was imprecise. And finally, we had a long history of surgery in this patient, and we tried to make with cataract surgery the final solution, something that we did not, because we ended in a high cylinder. This is the refraction that we finished with this case. The patient after bilaryctomy had a plus 1.5, minus 5 cylinder by 120, BCPA was 0.8, and we decided to implant a piggyback lens, the wear of the lens, and this implanted over a previous monofocal lens. The second day of the surgery, the patient was 0.6, very happy, was not the 0.8. We had a residual cylinder, but the patient refused to do anything else. We could rotate the lens, but the patient didn't want to do that because going from 1.1 to 0.6 and using the binocular vision properly, satisfied, and we didn't have the chance. The patient didn't want us to rotate the lens because he was considered to be good enough not to do anything else. So in summary, the eyecryl and the toric phakic lens has definitely surgical advantages concerning the surgeon's performance, concerning the material, concerning the correction of high cylinders, concerning the rotational stability of the lens, and finally, because of the durability, you are sure that you are implanting a lens that will last for a long time in these patients, even that they are young. It is very predictable in terms of the ball. It is this is something that we appreciate because it's not so unusual to have problems with the ball with SCL. It's very unusual to have any problem with ball with this lens because the ball prediction is good. Ball prediction depends on the software that is working, as I told you, very well. We can order the lens in different length, the total lens that are not existing with the lens, particularly with SCL. This is a lens that can be much more customized to any patient, especially in abnormal cases and patients following large keratoconus or other type of products. The calculation of the lens in terms of the ball involves different measurements that are at this moment being under new supervision. We have developed, jointly with a Dutch company, an instrument that is designed to measure the sulcus to sulcus based on optical principles. So with the OCT that we cannot really see the sulcus will not be needed in the future. Just the simple instrument that makes by optical methods the sulcus to sulcus distal visible, and I will show to you in other presentations in the future. Will make, in my opinion, the final touch in terms of having the perfect performance in terms of sizing of this lens, and to offer this with no refractive surprise or position surprise. I'm inviting all of you to this as a specialization course in refractive corneal lens surgery with 500 hours of teaching activities in multimedia and 30 CTS credits. You have here the email address, and you can, those of you interested in this activity, which is an official certification from the Spanish University on this topic, you can click here and you will see the distribution of more than 100 lessons with multimedia videos and different activities. This is Alicante. This is Harbor of Alicante. It's a very nice place. You are invited to join us anytime, and you can join us online as well. We have at the end of October our continuous medical education course that is free access for during 2 days, and then 6 months afterwards. You can attend the different sessions as well. Total of 12 sessions focused on continuous medical education in refractive, corneal, cataract surgery, and intraocular lenses, and also with new technologies, new instrumentation that is available now for the benefit of our patients. I want to thank you very much for your kind attention. I will stop the transmission, and now I'm happy to share with you any comment or any question that you find is convenient. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Alio, for that very engaging talk and really highlighting how we could use put phakic IOLs to good use in several difficult special situations in which I think refractive outcomes are very, very difficult to refine or make your patients happy. So I would now welcome our expert panel to interact with Dr. Alio. I think Dr. Radhika, would you like to take the lead?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Palathi. Thank you, Dr. Basak, and the entire AIOS scientific team and the management for giving IGO this opportunity to have this webinar, and of course, Professor Alio for having taken time out and given us this wonderful talk. It's a very big encouragement to know that all over the world this technology is available. And with your vast experience and having the entire range of facilities available to you, it's very good to know that you have highlighted certain important features about this lens with a very scientific and a logical explanation as to what are the benefits. We have had experience of using this lens for the past 1.5 years at our institute. It is a leading teaching hospital in New Delhi, the All India Institute of Medical Sciences. We were very cautious in the beginning because there is a kind of general acceptability and a certain, time-tested information available with a particular, product that everybody's familiar of using. So one was a little hesitant in the beginning to go for this new technology, and we were very cautious. And I will say that after using it for 1.5 years, just like you said, we would be very happy to use it as a first option for several situations. And you very nicely mentioned how it extends the range of refractive error that you can correct. That is the most simple and the easiest reason that you go beyond -20 and beyond plus. And similarly, the range of the astigmatism. But apart from that, the things that you highlighted about it being useful for as a therapeutic procedure. So for that, I was not very clear about one very important thing you mentioned, that is the 4 points of contact. I couldn't understand that very well. So maybe other people also would like that point to be explained a little better. The concept about 4 points of contact of the haptics, because on appearance wise, they look very similar in shape. So the fact that there is 4 points of contact and a better rotational stability, it would be very nice if you could explain that again.
Very good. Thank you very much, Dr. Tandon. And this is, let me share with you the screen, and we'll look to the picture in which this is explained. It's a very important concept. And to the best of my knowledge, the only one company that has addressed this issue properly, because it has been a problem, in terms of the quality and the stability. This is the lens to you with my pointer. You see here, this is a hinge. So you have the tip, you have the hinge, and this is the body of the lens. So this is a hinge that makes the lens to be stable in spite of being away from the sulcus, or with the sulcus is too short. This will bend, and will not make the haptic to roll. If you think in the haptic tips of the ICL, they are very thin, very flexible, and they roll. Here they will not roll at all. They are rigid, and this is the hinge that will adapt the lens depending on the meridian, guaranteeing that you have 4 points of contact. So if you have one that is like here in the precisely located, while other is too short because the dimensions of this meridian where the tip is located is too short, the hinge will fall the lens in spite of the shorter distance. And in doing that, the haptic will not be rolled. The haptic will be just adapted to this. Is a kind of guarantee that the lens will be adapted in the 4 points of contact to the sulcus, in spite of the difference that the sulcus can have between one and the other in the distance that separates the two haptics. This hinge is the key factor in this. I hope that I have explained it properly, but it's very important because the rotation cannot happen if you have 4 points of contact, and can happen you have only 1 point of contact. This is 2 points of contact, which is what is guaranteed by the ICL. Okay, is this clear, Radhika?
Yes, very clear. So that's nicely explained, and that's a very important added benefit of the lens. Then the other thing was that I'm also a surgeon who sits superiorly for cataract surgery, so I do not have to change my position. I usually, and I noticed that in your surgery, you are sitting superiorly and you're putting the lens at a little bit of an angle. So personally, I like to sit superiorly for all surgeries. I like the wound and the incision to be covered by the upper lid. But for ICL, because you have to implant it horizontally, so I, sit temporarily. So I did notice from the surgeries that you seem to be sitting superiorly and you're making your incision in such a way that the incision will be covered by the upper lid. Is that my understanding, or is it just I didn't understand properly when I watched the surgery?
Yeah, in my surgeries, either on cataract or refractive, I'm not rotating around the patient. I have my nose in the same position. The instruments are not changing the place, because from one patient to other, you have to change many times the position, and this is taking the time. And I try to reduce the loss of time in between surgeries. So in doing that, I sit at 12 o'clock position. The patient is rotated either clockwise or anti-clockwise in a way that I feel comfortable, and then the incision is placed in the temporal meridian. Is either temporal or nasal, but it's always temporal, and it's in the horizontal meridian in order to guarantee that the lens is implanted in the length in the meridian that has been calculated. The way in which it's calculated depends on the software. The software that we use is more complex than only the white to white. We are based on internal measurements as well. So I told you, we have already a new device that I cannot show to you because of confidentiality with the company, in which we can measure based on optical methods, the sulcus to sulcus. This will end the story of measuring based on the angle to angle, the white to white that is very precise, of the very distal by many sources, which is quite correct, but it's not the direct measurement of the sulcus to sulcus. So in doing that, we have quite accurate measurements of the sulcus to sulcus now. We have very accurate measures of the lens elevation. Lens elevation is very important. It's the reason of vault in some cases. And based on that, the predictor of vault is predicting not only the size of the lens that should be, but only predicting which vault you will have with this particular lens, which is something that is unique, and finally is well adapted or as well predicting what is going to happen. So this vault predictor works very, very well, and is predictor both for the lens in terms of vault, but also for the size of the lens, depending on meridian in which you are implanted, which is the horizontal one. The problem comes when you have high cylinder and the lens has to be rotated, for instance, 30 degrees. When you rotate the lens is when you need haptic will be closer to the horizontal than the other, and the other that is more distant to the horizontal meridian will be working in another meridian of different length. And this is when these 4 points of fixation based on the hinge of the haptics do the job, and you have, in spite of this rotation, no effect in the central vault or in the central peripheral vault, which is very important as well. Dynamic vault, which is the one that happens with the accommodation, is kept as well. And finally, we have no problems with the vault in 99% of the cases. And this is something that is very appreciated by us as surgeons, as far as well as make us to be much more comfortable, especially to the day after, in which we plan to have a happy patient with good vision, but with adequate anatomical conditions to face the future in a very happy and comfortable way.
Thank you so much, Dr. Alio. That was very, very nicely explained. And now we have Dr. Sri Ganesh here, who has got a huge practice and huge experience of all different types of refractive surgeries. So it will be nice to hear from Dr. Ganesh some pearls and also any sort of academic queries that you would also like to contribute.
Thank you. At the outset, I would like to thank Dr. Vanati. Hello, Professor Alio. As It was a pleasure listening to your talk. I would like to thank IJO, all the office bearers of AIOS for inviting me for this very nice talk. Very interesting cases that Professor Alio showed, and I totally concur with him. I've used a lot of ICLs. I've been doing ICLs for 22 years now, and I've been using the Eyecryl Phakic lenses for nearly 10 years now. In fact, we did a comparative study between the Visian and the Eyecryl, and we published it also in the GRS.
Yes.
And we found that both are actually perform very well. They are comparable, and in fact, if you don't look at the statistical analysis and just look at the results, the Eyecryl probably performs a little better. And in my experience with the Eyecryl, there are a few things which I like about the Eyecryl. The material is a little stiffer, so we never have the lens flip. So I've never had a lens which has flipped or turned upside down with the Eyecryl, and whereas with the Visian, I have the lens flipping, and that again can pose some problems. The vault predictability also, as Professor Alio has presented, is probably better with the Eyecryl. As far as I have seen, I have so far exchanged only one Eyecryl lens. So I think the exchange rates for STAR is higher because of the predictability of the vault. I think the Eyecryl has a better predictability because, again, because of the material and also the design. I think the vault and the posterior surface of the lens is designed in such a way that the vault is consistent. And like Professor Alio said, of course, we have also done post-op UBM. The whole reason why vault predictability is very poor, even with ICL, we also do UBM, and we also look at the internal measurement, sulcus to sulcus. And if you look at all the formula, Dogarty, Kojima, even the Reinstein formula, the accuracy is somewhere around 70%. The predictability of vault, I mean, plus or minus 200 microns is just about 70%. If it's two standard deviations of an ideal vault, which is 500 microns, that's even less, probably just about 50-50. So it's by chance if you get it right. That's because you don't know where the lens sits. And sometimes the haptics are sitting in the sulcus, and then the other haptics are sitting on the ciliary body or the zonules. So since you can't actually predict where the lens sits, it's very difficult to, because you assume that the lens is going to sit in the sulcus and then do all your calculations, but that assumption is wrong. With the Eyecryl, because it is stiffer, I think it has a higher chance of sitting in the sulcus, and probably this increases the predictability. Now they have a vault predictor also, and I think the initial studies done in Spain shows that the predictability is around 70%, but it can probably improve over a period of time because they are looking at various instruments also. So you can put in measurements from various instruments. You can also, if you don't have a UBM, it's fine. Otherwise, if you have a UBM, you can put the sulcus to sulcus. You can put the lens rise also, and this improves the accuracy. And I think with larger data and probably with AI, they will have better predictability in future. Also, I like the injector because the injector is very simple to use. I use the Medicel injector now, which is the new injector, and with that, I have not had any problems. And you're able to inject the leading haptics directly into the sulcus, which you can't do with the Visian. So it makes it much easier. The surgery is faster. And of course, the rotational stability is much better. In our experience, I think now probably I would prefer to use the Eyecryl as the first choice, because now we have long-term results also. We've been following up patients for nearly 10 years, 8-10 years, and the results have been quite good. Incidence of complications are very low, and I think we have a winner here. So this is very exciting. I've implanted phakic IOLs in children. We have about 11 pediatric cases where we have done for high anisometropia, and then what we have seen is that the amblyopia reversal is very fast. And if there is high anisometropia, definitely And this is one of the indications, and it works very well in children. Compared to any other treatment for amblyopia, once you correct the refractive error with the phakic IOL, then the amblyopia reversal is quite fast and they do very well. We have a limited series, of course, about 11 children with this. And I wanted to ask Professor Alio, in keratoconus, what happens is the cornea is steeper, so you get an artificially high ACD. And if you go by the normal calculations, then you can get a higher vault. Do you purposely kind of aim for a lower vault in such cases? Because we try to kind of step down and try to go probably like one size lower, so that otherwise sometimes you can get a very high vault.
Well, first of all, I completely confirm everything you said. I am very satisfied with this lens as a surgeon, because my surgery is better. I have less problems with less rotation when injecting the ICL. Not infrequent, you have less rotation. Then you have the problem that the lens can be implanted upside down, and then you have to extract the lens. To extract the lens, many times you break the ICL, and this is a hell. This is really a problem. It's not happening in any single case with the Eyecryl. You inject, the lens is there, you place the lens behind the iris, and the surgery is finished. So that has reduced a lot the maneuvers. As you know, to get the lens towards the tip in order to reduce the risk of rotation, we don't need to do that with the Eyecryl. It's definitely a better lens in terms of surgical maneuverability, surgical practice, the surgical easiness to use. The second is about the material. I totally agree with you. This lens is thinner. As a consequence to be thinner, the optical zone is larger. The optical zone adapts better to the large pupils of the young people, especially young mimes. And finally, this lens behaves better in terms of the vault. And we have been, believe me, for very few cases, we not 100%, but most of the cases are more or less in the vault that we are predicted, and very exceptionally we have any problem with the vault. The problem of the vault is not about sizing the lens. The lens is properly sized in the ICL most of the times, and the Eyecryl as well. But the problem with the ICL is that it's only in 30% of the cases you have a shorter real lens implanted with a higher vault, because the lens is not properly placed. You don't know where to place the lens. With a more rigid structure of the Eyecryl, you are implanting the sulcus in most of the cases. Most of the cases, I have to tell you that we are undertaking now study with the high frequency ultrasound to see the lens, whether it is in the sulcus or not. So far, in the case that we have evaluated, we have not a single one in which the lens is not sulcus to sulcus. Probably some indication will happen to be bad, but so far we have not been able to detect. What makes the lens to behave more novel is a more novel lens in terms of predicting where it is going to be, and as a consequence in the vault as well. The distance sulcus to sulcus is something that we have to guess always where it is. It depends on the formulas. Some formulas are better than others, but basically we have very little problem with sizing the lens. The lens or immediately one that is sulcus to sulcus, and once that we have a optical method easy and straightforward to calculate and to measure the sulcus to sulcus, this problem would totally disappear as far as the lens is in the sulcus. You have a ciliary body lens, the lens will be half vault, because basically you are implanted a lens that is larger than the ciliary body distance. This is the problem. And finally, about the outcomes of the lens in terms of toricity, rotational stability is very good. In terms of correction of high spheres, we use other lenses in the past, and the problem of the lenses as the meniscus of the lens was behind the lens in the posterior side. Then you had peripheral vault smaller than the central vault, and you have circular cataract, something that is annoying. The worst of the worst is to have a young patient, 25, 26 years, with a cataract that you have to operate. You open the Pandora box, attachment, you change the life of this person. You have a cataract. It is something that we avoid. So far, we have had, believe me, and this is from the bottom of my heart, not a single case of cataract induced by this lens. And we had, unfortunately, some cases with the ICL. That because different reasons, basically because the vault in the past, we had this one. So basically, has many advantages. I congratulate you because you have this company in your country. So the Indian technology is emerging as a dominant now in phakic lenses. In piggyback cases, is our favorite lens as well, because it's cost effective. You know that it's far less expensive than the ICL, and in today's world, to be cost effective is necessary. We're attending a social need. We have a public institutions, but we have private patients as well. All of them are in the benefit of getting a lower cost, and piggyback lenses with ICL were very high. Now with this lens we have, because of the reason I mentioned to you, adaptability, rotational stability, etc., our favorite lens, and we are in most of the piggyback cases using the ICL. So overall talking, I'm very satisfied, very proud to be user of this lens. And this, let me tell you, and this is something that is totally true, the only one lens that I implanted now is phakic posterior chamber lens, is the Eyecryl, because I don't see the reasons to change to any other. I have all the advantages in this lens that I need, and I am sure that the company has been extremely keen in introducing improvements and modifications to the surgeries. They are very much interacting with us, which is very, very good, you know, because we can have good ideas or bad ideas, but we have ideas, and some of them are good. And if you have several surgeons asking for the same thing, like happened with the hole, we have been 20 years asking for the central hole in the ICL, and they did it only a few years ago. From the very beginning, this thing introduced this hole, which is different to the one in terms of size and profile that the ICL. Definitely, all this makes Thank you for your comments.
I just wanted to know in keratoconus, because you get in advanced keratoconus axial cones, where you want to implant a phakic IOL, you get a larger ACD, which is actually false. So you may overestimate the size of the lens. So do you kind of go one size lower when you're actually planning the lens?
Yeah, well, you have to remember that the sulcus to sulcus distance in keratoconus doesn't follow the rules. Doesn't follow the rules that in standard cases. As a matter of fact, if you measure, if you use the white to white, which, as you know, is a raw measurement, but if you use the angle to angle, these are not been the ones that are happening as a different variables included in the formula to behave the same in keratoconus. In advanced keratoconus, you have a problem in the scleral rim, and you have a problem that the dimensions of the sulcus. You have you're in very flat implantations, in very flat ball, something that is not happening with the lens as well. So this is another issue. Obviously, we need to have a sulcus measurement that is not as cumbersome to be calculated as it is with high frequency ultrasound. And this is accomplished still. As I told you, we don't have data, but I'm sure that sulcus to sulcus is not going to be any longer a problem. As far as this instrument is cheap, is high tech, but it's not expensive. And it's definitely the one that we need to finish this conflictive estimation, because it's not a calculation, estimation of the lens based on sulcus to sulcus measurement that is basically extrapolated from the other measurements that if not the standard, you are not going to be precise. This is the point.
Also, we did a study on the dynamic vault between Eyecryl and ICL, and we found that the dynamic vault, the change in the dynamic vault on accommodation and pupillary constriction is much higher with the Visian ICL when compared to the phakic. It's because of the material, because I think the softer material has a tendency to move more. So there's almost like about 40 to 50 microns more movement in the Visian Colamad lens. And this can also give rise to some amount of lens touch, because if the lens is moving too much in the eye. So that's also one of the advantages of this lens, that the dynamic vault changes are less because of the material.
Agree. And this is, I'm aware of your work, and that was very well performed. Dynamic vault has been not properly studied so far. You know, I'm aware of that, especially in hyperops. Hyperopic implants are definitely ones that are more prone to have problems with dynamic vault. The lens elevation is different in the hyperop. Dynamic vault is remarkably stable in these cases. So we don't have this change that there's between accommodation and non-accommodation. These eyes are stable. The lens is not touching the crystalline lens. And in my opinion, so far, as I told you before, we have not had any single cataract following the implantation of the Eyecryl, which in part is, in my opinion, due to the lack of inadequate dynamic vault, especially in hyperos, especially in these spaces in which you have a relatively high laser elevation that many times makes us to base a question mark about the indication of equipments.
And in hyperopes, again, the Visian does not have a central hole. It's because they say that the dysphotopsia is more. It's probably because the refractive index is lower and the lens is thicker in the center for hyperopes when compared to the Eyecryl, which because of the higher refractive index, the central thickness is lower for hyperopes. So they have actually put in a hole. What is your experience in terms of dysphotopsia for hyperopes with the central hole in the Eyecryl lenses?
So thank you for mentioning this, because I didn't mention it in my lecture, but it's true that the lack of hole in hyperopic implants, the ICL, make us to make a PI, which in the hyperop, indeed, many times is something that is uncomfortable because these areas are more prominent and you have a less elevation. So based on that, this is uniformly, you will not need PI with that. This is one issue. About the indication in hyperops, is less frequent. Obviously, we do hyperopic with examined laser up to 7 diopters with Amaris. So that, I don't know if you agree. I know that it's controversial, but we have papers published that demonstrate the examined laser surgery with adequate optical zones and adequate laser is safe up to 7 diopters. You go to the peer-reviewed literature and you will read my papers. Having said that, in some cases we have to use the in hyperos usually are not well indicated. These eyes are not anatomically prone to accept a phakic IOL. But if you have a good anatomy, you can implant this lens, and this lens could have a halogen glare. Yes, we can, especially at night. The peripheral the part of the lens can induce some halos. Even that we have not been aware of having any patient with disability related to this. In the myopes, directly we have very few patients complain of halos, very, very few. You can have some, but only if you ask. In hyperos, you are more prone to have this problem. But having said that, these patients are happy because the hyperop is the worst patient for everything. They suffer a lot because hyperopia is bad for far and even worse for near, and they are satisfied with the vision near. So do we have halos? Yes. Not in myopes, little significant in hyperos. Hyperos are less frequently an indication for lens, and I have no doubt that in cases in which we have isometropia, in which we have to implant the lens, that the implant the lens, I have to tell the patients that it might be that we have some halo, but definitely the no need of PI makes me to be much more comfortable because sometimes this photopsia comes because of the PI, and this is something that is happening. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very good.
May I ask Dr. Mohanta to share your experience, because in different practices and different parts of country, you have different patients' requirements, and also often the anatomy may be a little bit different. So from your practical experience, would you like to share a few pearls, Dr. Mohanta?
Yeah, thank you, Professor Vanati, and all the AIOS office bearers for inviting me here. And that was a wonderful presentation, Dr. Alio. And I have two questions for Dr. Alio. One is, what is the anterior chamber depth you keep in case of hyperopic patients? Because these patients have really narrow anterior chambers. So what is your AC depth cutoff?
Well, I look not only to the depth, but to the lens configuration and the angle. So for me, the anterior chambers should be from crystal lens to endothelium 2.8. 2.8 is the minimum. Less than that, I hesitate to make any indication of any phakic. Second, associated to this, we need to have an angle open in 270 degrees of about 30 degrees of angle in 270. Third condition, less elevation. Very important. Less elevation should be not more than 400 microns. If more than 400 microns, I do not implant a phakic lens, because these cases usually have a more narrow anterior chamber as well.
And one more question.
Yeah.
So basically, I don't have any personal experience putting a piggyback IOL, Eyecryl Phakic IOL as a piggyback IOL post pseudophakia. So is the measurement of the overall diameter of the lens is as usual with the phakic lenses, or there is a change with the overall diameter? We should consider some.
Yeah, in these cases, I usually implant the sulcus to sulcus estimation, not reducing in one size the lens. The reason is that you don't have less elevation. You have an intraocular lens. Usually, this lens is a monofocal lens, and you have no problems with less elevation, and you will not have, as a consequence, any influence of the lens elevation in the bulb. So with this, we calculate the sulcus to sulcus, if possible, directly with the acoscope, which is an IOL calculator. We choose what is the length calculated by the calculator precisely to sulcus. So we don't go for a smaller lens as usually we do in the ICL or on the Eyecryl, because it's not necessary. It's simply talking a much more reliable and confident implant, because you are going to be with no problems with the vault, obviously, and you have any problem with vault, it's not relevant because it will not affect at all, neither there is not the lens.
I just want to add one point, because I have used this as a piggyback lens for after pseudophakia, especially with very high myopes. You don't get toric lenses, and many times you get only the expand series 3-piece lenses which you put in, and then there is most of these high myopes also have astigmatism. So you want to correct this astigmatism, then you can use the Eyecryl Phakic as a piggyback lens. And if you look at the regular measurements, if you're going to take the white to white, and normally you get a very large ACD, because in pseudophakics the ACD is larger. So if you use this calculation, then it will give you a very high vault, because the vault is determined depending upon the ACD. So like Professor Alio said, if you actually measure the sulcus to sulcus, then it's not a problem. If you're measuring the white to white and then deciding on that, then you can go one size lower, because you don't want an oversized ICL. If you have an oversized, a phakic IOL, then the pupil expands, and then you can have night vision issues and other problems like pigment release, etc. So it's better to go one size lower, because you're not bothered about developing cataract in a pseudophakic eye. So that's so one size lower for both piggyback lenses and also for keratoconus, if you're looking at the white to white and the normal formula.
Thank you so much.
I have a question. That while putting the pseudophakic, that piggyback phakic IOL, do you consider the position of haptic of previous IOL? Because this is 4-point and the haptic is encroaching in different areas, though it is in the bag. But do you consider, because there might be some tilting issue in that area?
If the lens is completely in the bag, then there is no issue at all. It's only if the haptic is not in the bag, if one haptic is in the sulcus, then you can have an issue with that. If it's completely in the bag and you have a nice overlap of the rexis, then there is no issue. You can place it wherever you want, because in a toric lens, then you don't have an option.
That's
and you have to place it horizontally. The advantage with the Eyecryl is the maximum rotation you have to do is 15 degrees, unlike the star where it goes to 22. And the sulcus is larger in the vertical meridian than the horizontal. It is opposite to the white to white. So when you have to rotate it by 22 degrees, then only 2 of the haptics will be in contact with the sulcus, and then the 2 are not. So there's a higher risk of rotation, and then normally it rotates and sits in the horizontal, in the vertical meridian, because that's where the sulcus is the largest. With the Eyecryl, the maximum rotation is 15 degrees. And even at 15 degrees, like Professor Alio said, because of the configuration and the design of the haptics, you have a good contact. So the incidence of rotation is very low.
Good, thank you.
I have to add that when you use this lens in a piggyback, I don't care about the haptic position of the previous lens. I care about the casual back. The casual back, by any chance, you have adhesions in the previous surgery, and sometimes because there's a CTR and the description of the surgery has been with any problem, you train the piggyback lenses. In these cases, I use the sulcus flex, which has very long haptics, and this long haptics guarantee to me in presence of this type of suspected or evident sonda adhesions in one sector, guarantees to me the stability. So I don't use the eyecryl as a piggyback in cases in which I don't have a good stability of the sonda. We have a sondulopathy. The patients have a pseudospholation or have described this finding. In this case, I prefer the sulcus flex, which is, in my opinion, at a guaranteed less in terms of stability. This is the only one case in which I'm not using that.
So that's why I think for pseudophakic piggyback implantations, it's always better to do a UBM and check whether there are any additions or if the zonules are normal, and then plan the implant.
Yeah, good. Very good.
Dr. Bhaskar, any experience you would like to share, or any insights or any queries?
So, I mean, I've been using the eyecryl phakic lenses for the last 5 years, and because it's rigid, the ease of tucking in the haptics is it's a lot easier. So for a beginner, it's a lot easier lens to implant as compared to the star, because it kind of folds as you kind of push it in. All the other parts have already been covered. Just 2 questions that I would want the other panelist and Dr. Alio to kind of answer. One would be, when you're using it in a pediatric patient for amblyopia, are you concerned at some point of time that the vault will start reducing because the eyeball size increases? Obviously, the refractive change also can take place, and you might have to top it up with an exchange or a refractive correction subsequently. So, what, in his experience, what has been the follow-up that he's had with a pediatric ICL? One. Second, for the benefit of the listeners, what would be your checklist when you decide on offering ICL for a keratoconus patients? Because obviously not all keratoconus patients fit into the algorithm of ICL asset. So if you could just give a checklist, that would be useful for all of us who have logged in.
Thank you very much, Faksar. In pediatric, we have been performing pediatric refractive surgeries in almost 25 years. So we have patients that we implanted 25 years at the age of 8, and now they are adults, and we see these patients very good. We have had outstanding success with pediatric refractive surgery. Obviously, you need to do things well. You need to select the cases, but these cases with high isometropia that are prone to develop deep amblyopia, we have rescued from life for this problem with lenses. Having said that, formerly we used the Artisan Artiflex. The reason is clear. We can expand this lens easily if necessary. You cannot be sure what is going to be the final evolution of the myopia. But what we target is to treat amblyopia and not to eliminate glasses. This is clear from the beginning, and the patients and the parents know that we are choosing the best option to recover vision. So it's a vision restoring surgery. Artiflex Artisan did very well, but since about 2 years we're using the Artiflex. The reason is clear that we were not trusting in the ICL because of the material. The material is collagen, and collagen degrades. Degrades as we cannot avoid that, And they claim to be 20 years warranty, the lens, but we have now patients that have been more than 20 years implanted. When the lens eyecryl came to me, and I saw that they warranty 40 years with the Flex 26 base material, which is a very well-known material, has no glistenings, has no decadence, aging of this material has not been reported. We opened the window for this lens because the other lenses were and having said that, the rest is just what we do in a normal case. We measure and we calculate, and we estimate which is going to be the size of the lens depending on the variables involved in the calculation. We implant the lens to be targeting emetropia. We don't target hyperopia, we target emetropia because our purpose is to gain vision, and targeting emetropia, as the other eye usually is myopia as well or hyperop. Even with a small occlusion time, you gain vision, because once that the brain detects the vision, immediately the plasticity of the kids do that. Our younger patient implanted is 8 years, was a high hyperop plus 8, with adequate anatomical conditions. The patient was at that moment with a BCVA of 0.2, and we told the patient, the family, that we were not expecting to gain a lot of vision, but it was worthwhile to try This patient and with some patient to gain vision to almost normal levels. Outstanding success. So we choose the lens because of these reasons. Calculations are the same, the surgery is the same. We do on the GI, obviously in children, this is not to be in doubt. And the rest is fine because the behavior of the lens is very good. The other is keratoconus. The keratoconus is different. Keratoconus we use, we prefer intraocular refractive surgery. Corneal refractive surgery is only therapeutic. I mean, when we have good vision with high aberrations. So these patients that have -2 but have high coma, and we have implanted, for instance, an intraocular instrument. These patients improve a lot if you treat the aberrations, and this is when we use examination. All the others, we prefer intraocular surgery. It's much more reliable. You know what you are doing. And again, you have to remember the sulcus to sulcus distance in the might not follow the standard dimension. And so you have to be sure that you are making adequate measurements in the horizontal axis to be sure that the lens is going to have stability, because you need to rotate, as Dr. Suriganes has mentioned, up to 15 degrees. So sometimes I have to rotate more because we have to re-rotate the lens because surgically induced astigmatism. And finally, I'm satisfied with this. The vault is not a problem. The anterior chamber is deep, and you have no problems with the vault either. But we have not observed, believe me, the cases of vault. The calculation is fine, and I think that the main advantage is that we can guarantee, not yet proven, the location at the sulcus. Problem that CL is not at the sulcus in 60% of the cases, and this is why the vault is irregular. You have the diameter vault as another problem, in young patients indeed is relevant, and we have had the only in keratoconus intraocular refractive surgery, which is a form of therapeutic refractive surgery, very much in favor of the patients, in order to gain binocularity, to gain vision, and finally to make a successful outcome of corneal grafts that fail because binocularity is bad with high anisometry, especially high and my astigmatic anisometry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My checklist basically for pediatric cases, we have done about 11 now. I think we have a follow-up of about 18 years. I've only treated myopic anisometropia, very high myopic anisometropia. And these children primarily, like Professor Alio said, it is for amblyopia reversal. So we tell them that it's not a refractive correction. I don't prefer to use toric lenses. I use spherical lenses for these pediatric cases because as the eye grows, there is a chance that the sulcus can become wider and the lens rotates. And for minimal astigmatism, they can always wear glasses. But what I've seen is that the amblyopia reversal is excellent in these cases. Regarding sizing, again, it's the usual sizing that we do. And as the child grows, definitely there is a chance that the refractive error will change. You need to keep checking that, and then you can give contact lenses. But the main reason of implanting the phakic IOL in children is for amblyopia reversal. I remember there was one child whom he had very dense amblyopia, 7-year-old boy, and he had less than 660 vision in that eye, the anisometropic eye. And then we implanted the lens, and then 2 years later, he developed retinal detachment, and he had to undergo vitrectomy and silicone oil also. And then, but his amblyopia had reversed. He had 6/9 parts vision. And even after the retinal detachment surgery, his vision was quite good, around 6/12. He developed cataract. So we had to explant the ICL, do the cataract surgery. But now even on follow-up, he's still maintaining around 6/12 vision. So if we had not done the surgery, he would have been worse off. So his amblyopia would not have kind of reversed. So it's primarily for amblyopia reversal. And you explain that to the parents. For keratoconus, basically, for progressive keratoconus, first we do the cross-linking. Sometimes if it is a eccentric cone with best corrected vision less than 6/12, then I prefer to put ICRS along with cross-linking. And then we wait for stabilization up till 6 months. If the vision is better than 612, only then we put in a phakic lens. If the vision is worse than 612, then they do better with a contact lens, scleral contact lens, or any other contact lens for keratoconus. So this is my preference. Ideally, axial cones, vision better than 6x12, they are excellent candidates. We slightly undersize the lens if you are not doing a sulcus to sulcus, because it gives a false larger ACD. So this, when you have a larger ACD, then the formula gives you a larger sized lens, and you can get a high vault. When you have a high vault, again, you have pupillary stretch and other issues. Even the angles can get narrower. So it's better to go one size lower. If you're doing a sulcus to sulcus measurements, then you can actually verify that, and then and always tell the patient that if many of these patients are wearing rigid gas permeable lenses, and you should always tell them that the quality of vision with the phakic IOL will be similar to that of their glasses and not their contact lenses. Because of the contact lens becomes the first refractive surface. RGP lenses, they actually remove all the irregularities in the cornea because of the tear lens. And then the patient's expectation is that they will have the same vision as their contact lens. And you'll have to clearly tell them that it's not going to be like your contact lens. It's going to be like, vision is going to be like your glasses. With glasses, if it's 612, then the vision will be 612 or 6/9 parts. So that is something you need to tell them. And the debatable thing is when to put in the phakic IOL, whether some people say even 3 months is okay, because these patients basically require vision, and then the refraction can change slightly over a period of time, because with cross-linking, you have progressive flattening of cornea, and the refraction keeps changing. So, but some of them say you have to wait up till 1 year, but again, that's debatable. We usually wait anywhere from 3 to 6 months, depending upon what the patient wants, but minimum of 3 months at least, so that it kind of stabilizes.
Yeah, I mean, basically,
I agree, Sri. Yeah, following the cross-linking, you have to wait 3 to 6 months. Sometimes you wait 3. If we can wait 6 is better, definitely. But it's a good point. Thank you. I have another activity, so I would need to finish. So, Nati, you are the boss. Tell me when you allow me to leave. Okay.
Yes, I think this discussion can keep going on, and we are learning a lot of new concepts and a lot of new things. I did have a couple of questions for you, Dr. Alio, but I think we'll catch up on that when we meet in person next then. And I would like to hand over the podium to our treasurer, Dr. Manoj Mathur, who would probably take us on the closing credits. Dr. Mathur, over to you.
Thank you, Vanati. At the outset, on behalf of the IOS headquarters, let me thank Professor Jorge Alio for that very informative exposition about phakic IOLs. I would like to thank our President, Dr. Samar Basak, and Dr. Santosh Shomanawar for their welcome address, and not to miss our expert panel, Professor Radhika Tandon, Dr. Sri Ganesh, Dr. Ayan Mohanta, and Dr. Bhaskar Srinivasan for their expert comments and questions. And it turned out to be a very informative panel discussion with Professor Jorge Alio. So thank you, everybody. Thanks again, Dr. Vanati, for coordinating this event. Thank you all.
Yeah. Thank you very much for all of you. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this excellent discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.